from 60 to 90 million years. And the way that we can tell this is, remember, you can actually push it right through that hole. She cannot get her teeth. She cannot get her teeth. So if you just put it straight through, even the smallest piece, all you have to do is put it right on the edge, and she'll take it right from you.
Just don't stick your fingers to the hole.
There you go. It's funny because it's a little unnerving when you're that close to the teeth. But if you notice, Maggie keeps on looking at you with your eye through the hole, going, I know there's more in there.
Can we feed these?
Oh, you feed everything.
Okay.
This is your feeding time. Now for these guys, they get 25% of their body weight every day. Now to put that in perspective, take how much you weigh and eat that many quarter pounders. And that's what it takes to be an otter. They rely on their high metabolism as well as that thick fur coat to keep them warm. Now their fur is actually the thickest fur of any animal on the planet. In the size of about a quarter, they can have anywhere from 650,000 to 1 million hairs. And we know that because of some poor grad student that had to sit underneath the microscope and count them. Yes.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, I was a grad student. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't have that job.
That's why I stayed with molecular biology.
But it was just one of those things where it's one follicle has multiple hairs coming out of it, and that's what makes it so amazingly dense. You cannot find the skin on these guys, and that's why it's so important that when we have things like oil spills, that when their fur gets degraded, it acts like a wick. And so if one little piece of water can get through, it just wicks underneath it, and they can look dry, but their actual inner coat is all wet. Now another thing you might notice is that they're chewing their food. That's another different adaptation that these guys have compared to other marine mammals. Most marine mammals catch their food, swallow it whole. These guys, since they're so relative newcomers, they're chewing their food. And then you can see those lovely teeth when they do that.
It's about the size of my cat.
Now if you notice when you give them the shrimp, most of them are peeling the shrimp.
Yeah.
And they're very good at it. They're some of the fastest peelers. They'll actually come back and get that a little bit later because there's still a little piece of meat in there. But they know that this bin is still full. So they'll wait until the very end to get that. Now if you notice all these attention's a little bit off, that's because she's young. Otters at this age tend to have, we like to liken it to ADD. Their attention span is extremely small. So when you're talking about training behaviors for these guys, we have to train it much differently than we would train, say, the seals or sea lions, because they have a different temperament. So if you have cats at home, they're much like a cat. Cat will go on its belly, you can rub its belly and everything's fine, but all of a sudden the claws come out and they're attacking your hand. Yet you did nothing. These guys have no primary aggression signs. They can turn just like that. And you have to be very careful because their jaw strength is pretty impressive. I used to work with a gentleman that was carrying an otter, unfortunately, and it took off his lower jaw. That's why we're behind this lovely plexiglass.
So there's, besides abalone and shrimp, there's what?
There's clam and squid.
Squid, yeah.
These guys, to feed one otter, and this doesn't include the abalone because that would throw off their budget completely, is around $25,000 a piece. We have 6 otters. They're the most expensive animal at the aquarium. So your admission as well as your behind-the-scenes tour cost actually goes to help these guys. These animals take up half our budget. But they're so fantastic, and they're such a great story because they are a threatened species. These animals are still classified as threatened just because they're in such a small area that if something were to go wrong, their whole environment could be taken away. There is a small population off of San Nicolas Island. There's about 43. There's a translocation project that they try to allow these animals to live in a different area. It has all the food, but otters are very unique in their own territory, and some of them, they may have not been raised on that food, and so to them, they don't see that as a food source. Maggie's a perfect example. We're giving her something that's a fantastic caloric food source, the abalone, but she won't eat it because she doesn't recognize it as food. So they took all these otters over there, expecting them, hey, there's urchins, but if the otter wasn't taught by its mother to eat urchins, it's not going to realize that an urchin is an edible thing. So that's why most of the otters came back. Only 23 stayed at San Nicolas Island. But what happened was those 23 started to breed, and now there's 43. But we don't see that number increasing very high. But what's nice now is that there's classified as a no otter zone is no longer applicable anymore. It used to be that if an otter went south of Point Conception, they were captured and brought up back up to Monterey area. That's no longer the case. Otters can now start colonizing down here, and we actually had an otter that